Aunt Shelley hasn't received a hug from her husband for over 5 years, but she gives him hugs all the time. It isn't because he doesn't love her, because he doesn't want to hug her. 7 years ago, my Uncle Alan was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. Most people have never even heard of ALS. My Aunt Shelley knows it all too well. ALS, more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a neurological disease that attacks the nerves in your body and makes it so your muscles can no longer function. It usually starts in the arms and legs until you're totally paralyzed, and eventually makes it so that you can no longer even breathe. The disease, however, never affects the mind, so the person with the disease ends up being trapped inside his or her own body. The disease happened to my Uncle Alan, but it has also affected my aunt in many ways. I admire my aunt for keeping her positive attitude and also for keeping my uncle's dignity. Anything that happens to my Uncle Alan affects my aunt. When they found out that he had ALS, it was bad news for both of them. As time progressed and he lost the strength in his arms, my Aunt Shelley lost the hugs she enjoyed. She also had to start feeding him, brushing his teeth, and doing other basic needs. My Uncle Alan could no longer put up the Christmas tree or drive a car, so my aunt had to do that as well. The next thing to go were my uncle's legs. This meant that if he and Shelley ever wanted to go anywhere, he would have to be pushed in a wheelchair. Shelley had to learn how to transfer him from the wheelchair to the bed, and also how to lift the wheelchair up onto their van. The most recent thing to go was my uncle's breathing. This must have been a very scary and difficult time for them both, but just listen to the optimism in my aunt's voice when she wrote this just hours before the surgery for the trach and feeding tube. Alan was admitted to the hospital yesterday afternoon and is scheduled to have a trach and feeding tube put in today. A pulmonary doctor came and visited with us, and the hope of having a trach that a person can still talk with doesn't sound good. The man with the voice will be silent, but still his eyes will dance. The trach and feeding tube are very complicated machines, and Shelley had to learn how to run them, and also what to do should there be an emergency. Also, my uncle's lungs fill with fluid, so my aunt has to suction him up several times a day. Now that I've talked about how Alan having ALS has affected Shelley, I want to tell you about how she's kept a positive attitude. No one would blame Shelley if she were saddened, depressed, or upset by all of this, but she's remained positive and cheerful. Every time I see her, she wants to give me a hug, something she loves to do, and she always makes me feel special. I think she's that way with everyone. Not only has she kept up a great attitude, she's even allowed good to come out of this by her and Alan starting a support group for ALS in their home. There was a real need for this in their community and has helped many people. It's extra work for Shelley because she has to organize supplies that are donated to her and pass them out to people who need them, but she's very willing to do this. Shelley has been so willing to give up her privacy, another outcome of the disease, that they leave their doors unlocked. People stop by to encourage them, but often leave feeling encouraged themselves. Stress and depression are two main causes of divorce. When someone gets a disease such as ALS, it's common for them to become stressed out and depressed. Shelley had to watch as her strong husband became weak, as the man she depended on to do everyday things became unable to do even the most simple tasks. Shelley had to become his caretaker. She not only had to do the things that he used to do, such as mow the lawn, she also had to care for him now. Shelley was forced to become Alan's caretaker as Alan was forced to become the patient. But still, Shelley has managed to keep their relationship as husband and wife strong. 25 years ago, when Alan and Shelley said their wedding vows, Shelley had no idea that ALS would be included in sickness and in health. But recently, for their anniversary, they renewed those vows. This goes to show how strong their loving commitment for each other really is. Another thing my Aunt Shelley does that I admire is keep Alan's dignity by always asking his opinion. Even when she speaks to others, she's inclusive of Alan. For example, she would say, "We painted the bedroom yesterday," even though she did the actual painting. She's careful not to make decisions for Alan. If someone asks her what he would like, she tells them to ask him. Even though Alan is now paralyzed from the neck down, he's still living a life that is reaching out to many people. Besides doing the support group in his own home, he also runs 2 websites by using a reflector that is attached to his glasses that runs the computer. and he also encourages many people. Alan would be the first to dedicate this to Shelley. Although everything that happens to Alan affects my Aunt Shelley, she's managed to keep a positive attitude that has encouraged many people, and she has never, and will never, detract from my uncle's dignity. This is not the life that my Aunt Shelley chose, but she has taught me that her positive attitude does not depend on her life being either easy or ideal. Of all the things my aunt misses, she says she misses my uncle's hugs the most. So the next time you see someone who's with someone suffering from an illness, I hope that you will remember what I've learned from my aunt, that you should treat the person with the illness with respect and dignity, and that you should care for others, and hopefully give them the hug they deserve.